Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 207, The Revelation of the Seven Seasons, Part 7. The podcast's objectives are reveal who can save the earth, analyze the world the chosen elect will inherit, analyze man's last chance at survival, and analyze the purpose of the Battle of Armageddon. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. The only one who can save the earth. Now, in the most recent podcast, we established the purpose of the restoration of the land of Israel, i.e., season 6. That is, to provide the chosen elect with a flourishing home in the midst of a desolate earth. If you recall, the Great Distress is the sum of seasons 3 through 5, the sifting of the nations, the destruction of Mystery Babel, and the day of Yahuwah. By the conclusion of these seasons, the world will not only have experienced a massive loss of men and women, the earth and its atmosphere will be devastated. The word of truth confirms this matter on multiple occasions, and we will thoroughly analyze these scriptures in future podcasts. What you need to know now is sure, and I will offer it as a key point of interest. By the end of the Great Distress, the earth and its atmosphere will be so devastated, it will not be able to sustain human life long term. In other words, the sum of nuclear war and all the disasters that will transpire in those seasons will push the earth to a point of no return. Alas, the earth will be reeling, the earth will be dying, and the only one who can save it is our Father and Creator, the Ancient of Days, Yahuwah Elohim. The closest thing to paradise. Now, our loving master proves this matter in Matthew 24, saying, "And if those days were not shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those days shall be shortened." In other words, if Elohim does not intervene, mankind will become extinct. This is how bad things will be by the conclusion of the Great Distress. It will be the worst of the worst times. Matthew 24 and 21 reveals, "For then there shall be a great distress, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be." Contrary to the beliefs of some, we, the chosen elect, will be in the earth during this season. My dear friends, we will witness the great distress. We will endure the sifting of the nations, the destruction of Mystery Babel, and the day of Yahuwah. This is why Yahushua Messiah reveals that those days will be shortened for our sakes. It's because we will still be here. And apart from divine intervention, we would die here with those who do not have the seal of Elohim. Thus declare I, all praises be to thee Most High. For a divine intervention will occur. It will transpire during season 6, i.e., the restoration of the land of Israel. At this time, Yahuwah will transform the land of Israel into a garden paradise. Not only will this provide his chosen ones with a safe space in the apocalypse sphere, but it will also provide a template for the renewal of the heavens and the earth. Here is why. The millennial kingdom is not going to take place in a desolate earth. Quite the contrary, it will take place in a renewed earth that will parallel the Garden of Eden and the world prior to the flood. We discussed this matter during the 100 level courses. In those lessons, we came to see how the heavens and the earth will be renewed prior to the reign of Yahushua Messiah. Per the timeline below, you can see the heavens and the earth are renewed after the Battle of Armageddon and right before the millennial kingdom is established. We know this because it is impossible for there to be peace on earth and goodwill toward the remnant of man in a world that cannot even sustain human life. Remember, mankind will once again live long lives. Our lives will be so long that a child will be considered 100 years old, and we will outlive the work of our hands. These things being what they are, we know Elohim will renew the earth. In the world which the chosen elect will inherit will be the closest thing to paradise. I hope to see you there. Man's last chance at survival. Now, before we get there is one final season in these last days which we must endure. Enter the Battle of Armageddon, the final battle, the war to end all war. Per the timeline below, the Battle of Armageddon is the final season in these last days. It is the last event standing in between us and our entrance into the millennial kingdom. The backdrop behind this final battle is fascinating. It all starts with season 5 and the conclusion of the Great Distress as the day of Yahuwah comes to an end. Not only has 3/4 of mankind vanished, but the earth is also dying, having reached a point of no return. Nations have fallen, economies have collapsed, food supplies have vanished, sickness and disease are running rampant. The quality of human life has reached an all-time low. Then season 6 comes, and a small population of people begin making a journey to the land of Israel. No one is quite sure why. After all, the only land worse off than Israel is Mystery Babel. And yet, they are on this journey. By the time they arrive, what was one of the most devastated lands is miraculously transformed into a garden paradise. And within a matter of months, these chosen ones have settled in this newfound utopia and are now thriving in the midst of a post-nuclear Earth. The question of the hour is, what are the other nations going to do? The few nations that somehow survived the Great Distress, even though they are now largely dying. The answer, They will fly upon the land for the simple fact that this land represents man's last chance at survival. Ezekiel 38, 8 through 12 reads, "After many days, you shall be called up. In the latter years, you shall come into the land of those brought back from the sword and gathered from many people on the mountains of Israel, which had been a continual waste, but they were brought out of the peoples, and all of them shall dwell safely. And you shall go up, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your bands, and many peoples with you. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, and it shall be in that day that words arise in your heart, and you shall devise an evil plan. And you shall say, let me go up against a land of unwalled villages. Let me go to those at rest who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take plunder and to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against a people gathered from the peoples, acquiring livestock and goods, who dwell in the middle of the land." Your final stop. Now, although this is most certainly the most prominent passage concerning the Battle of Armageddon and the genesis of it, there are many more. And as you have likely guessed, we will analyze these in future podcasts. What you need to understand at this time is the purpose for this pivotal battle. That is, to remove the remaining stumbling blocks and those doing lawlessness from the earth, because the millennial kingdom is just around the corner. Remember, the great distress will only depopulate the earth by approximately 80%. And thus, there will still be a vast lot of men and women in the earth who do not have the seal of Elohim, and they will not inherit the millennial kingdom. This speaks to a crucial point I made earlier in this end time series concerning the window of all those who do not possess the seal of Elohim. I will restate it at this time, and I ask you to consider it faithfully. All who fail to obtain the seal of Elohim prior to the end of the second season in these last days will die in one of the ensuing seasons. They will not make it into the millennial kingdom. It's just a matter of time. Alas, this is the sad reality of life without the seal of Elohim in these last days. To wit, if the great distress doesn't kill you, the battle of Armageddon will. This is true even if you don't participate in the battle. And again, as you have likely guessed, I have the scriptures to prove this matter. We'll touch on those when we execute our deep dive into this final season. Until then, my friends, my dear friends, I'll say it again. There is nothing in this life more valuable than the seal of Elohim. And for all who will not obtain the seal and yet persist, the battle of Armageddon will be your final stop. Now, here is the final word. The final step in surviving these last days is being on the winning side of the battle of Armageddon. If you've made it thus far with the seal of Elohim, then surviving this final battle should not be a difficult enterprise. By this time, the worst will be behind us, And although Armageddon will indeed be a bloody and violent battle, we will not sustain any casualties. Our side will endure no loss. All we have to do is trust in Elohim, as we have done from the start of these last days, and he will keep us in the hour of this battle, for we have kept his ways. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 207, The Revelation of the Seven Seasons, Part 7. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 210, Times and Seasons of the Restoration, Part 1. I will post this podcast on Monday, August 21st, 2023. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.